bit about just your background, history. You can know the what, you can know the how, but the why is really the most important thing. And you'll see that theme woven into this entire podcast. Like, didn't deserve to be the kid that you would have bet on. I didn't earn that. Welcome to One Tough Day Podcast. I'm Steve Van Horn. I'll be your host on One Tough Day Podcast. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to One Tough Day Podcast. Things are going really well. So far, great feedback. Appreciate everybody who's listened and tuned in on the Apple Podcast Store, on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere else you can find us. In the spirit of what I've mentioned on all the episodes, we have a great guest list. I have someone here today that I'm super excited to get to talk to. I've spent a lot of time, particularly over the last year, with this gentleman. His name is Jerry Rollins, and he is somewhat, again, like, I feel like I have this guest list. I keep using the same name, legend in the industry, but Jerry does qualify for that title as an industry legend and also works with people outside of the industry. I think my favorite thing about always talking to you, Jerry, is you're from the South. So
Oh, yeah.
you got this nice Southern hospitality that just comes as soon as you start speaking. And I'm originally from the South. As you know, I grew up in Kentucky.
Right.
And so I absolutely love and feel very comfortable talking to people who share that accent that my parents still have. So,
Well, you know, it goes everywhere with me. Everywhere I go, it goes with me. I can be in California and 2 minutes after being there, somebody's like, where are you from in the South?
yeah, I do this thing. So I changed my dialect a little bit when I was in 8th grade. Nobody could understand what I said. So I had to like speak slowly for me anyways. Yeah. And when I'm around my family for extended periods of time, my wife says it starts to come back a little bit. She's like, I wish you still talk like that all the time.
I used to think it was like an issue for me. And I actually told my wife one time, I'm going to take speech classes. I'm going to try to get rid of my Southern drawl.
Don't you dare. And you do, and you're never coming back here.
She was like, no, don't do that. You know, and it's not like a sweet Charleston drawl. It's like a country, upstate, Asheville, North Carolina kind of twang.
Which makes sense.
And I said, I think I'm going to go to speech class. If I want to do this professionally, I'm going to have to get rid of that. And my wife said, no, I don't think so. I think they keep inviting you back because you don't sound like everyone else.
I think there's something to that. I think your wife is a very smart lady, and you should listen to her, Jerry.
Well, I try to. And, you know, what I found out was, you know, whatever you think your disadvantage is in life, that's actually your advantage, and you should lean into that.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying to get rid of it, I leaned into it, and I kept getting invited back to doing these conferences and these podcasts and all these speaking gigs, and it was because I didn't sound like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so I leaned into it. And so sometimes, like, if I'm in Boston or New York or something, I like turn it up a little bit. Just
to freak them out.
Yeah, I throw like a yonder out there or something like that where they don't know what it means.
Start calling it a holler. We were up in the holler there. Yeah, well, I speak that language.
Okay,
so
good.
You're not going to hit me with anything I don't know today. But so you already started teaching a little bit, and we haven't even got into it yet. But we're going to talk about your be good, do good philosophy. I know that's a big thing right now for you and your daughter, the prodigy. Yeah. She's going to have your job one day. You know that in your lifetime you're going to work for her, right?
No question. Lucy's the boss.
She is, and she's something to watch on social media right now.
Yeah, man, she's so much fun.
Yeah.
She's just so much fun. She's me made over. Her personality is my personality.
Much cuter, though.
But not my looks. Thank God she's not bald.
She's got a little more hair on top.
That's right.
Doesn't have to wear the hat to kill the glare.
She doesn't have the twang.
She's got a little bit of Southern.
A little bit.
Well, we'll dig into that, and definitely want to ask you some questions about your travels. You have the benefit of getting to travel all over the country, working with hundreds of contractors. I know you do dozens and dozens of on-site trainings every year. So definitely want to use that as an opportunity to pick your brain about some things you learn from some really high-level operators, some things that maybe you learn from some operators who aren't quite as successful, because sometimes we can learn how not to do things, right?
Absolutely.
So I would love to hear some of those insights. But just quickly to make our listeners more familiar with you, I know one thing that I loved about you as soon as I met you, Jerry, is the authenticity. And maybe the Southern twang helps to deliver a little more of that. But as I've gotten to know you better, one thing I've learned is it doesn't stop with the Southern drawl. It's very authentic. And you fit our style well. There's a lot of trainers out there in the industry right now who are very high pressure. It's more about using techniques and tactics to try to conquer the homeowner. And that's never been our philosophy. Our philosophy is to try to make a connection, to educate, to give options. You obviously know our system very well because you spent quite a bit of time with us. And your system aligns with that so well that I always want to be careful as we dive into this to never say, well, that wouldn't work in our market, because a lot of weak operators use that excuse way too frequently, as you
Oh,
know.
I hear it all the time.
Well, that won't work in my market. But when I hear certain corporate trainers teach tactics, I watched a guy the other day, and he's someone, you'll know his name. I'm not going to say his name, but he's like, try this when you're with a homeowner. Carry 4 quarters in your pocket at all time. Have you seen this video?
No.
He's like, and when you get to the point where they're just not making a decision today, I want you to get those 4 quarters out. And I want you to put them on the table. And this is how he talks. And I'm like, creeping me out, bro.
I know exactly who you're talking.
You know exactly what I'm talking about
Just
now.
because of that.
Yeah, he's
It's
like,
the whisper.
and I want you to slide those 4 quarters over in front of him. And I want you to say, is your family's health, is your family's indoor air quality not more important than $1 a day? And then I just want you to sit there and stare at him. And I'm like, that will not work in my market.
That would not work in my house.
That will not work in my market. And by the way, I think I would need to get a shower as soon as I left that house if I ever tried that on someone. And I know that that's not your philosophy.
Not
That's
at
not
all.
the way that we do business. And I don't think that would work in our market for the way, nor would I want it to, even if it did. But I think that's why it was always such a great fit. And as you and I interacted more and more and became Service Titan champions together, and
Yeah,
started filming
man.
content in this very studio a year ago. We just kind of jammed out and then did the Christmas letter challenge. But for those
That's
that
fine.
don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of backstory, where you're from and how this all started, and maybe your Tim the Toolman Taylor bit there with Morris Jenkins for a little while.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some of that.
Yeah, so I grew up in the upstate of South Carolina, and spent my entire childhood there. And at 17, I decided I wanted to be a chiropractor. And I don't think at 17 most kids know what they want. But 5 years later, I called my parents and said, "Hey, I'm going to drop out of college and I'm going to be a restaurant manager." Because I'd waited tables for like 5 years, and I just loved the whole hospitality part of it, just feeding people and comfort and breaking bread together. And I just loved it, absolutely loved it. And I went to work for Longhorn Steakhouse. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. They had 8 restaurants. When I left that company, they had 72 restaurants, and so I saw explosive growth there. And had like a midlife crisis, quarter life crisis about that time, and got out of that industry and got into sales. I sold siding, windows, roofing, doors, and gutters for a long time, and then I moved into the heating and air conditioning realm and roofing and electrical, and just about everything for your home, I've sold it. And at some point in that transition, I did a lot of training, I did a lot of hiring, I did a lot of interviewing, and I built my whole career just building teams. And so I love to find really great people with high character and a lot of integrity and teach them how to do the job, and then watch them grow and then hand them off to somebody else to let them manage them and go do it someplace else.
Yeah.
And so I've done that for a long time. In 2008, I went to work at Morris Jenkins in Charlotte, North Carolina, an absolute monster of a company, and spent some time in sales there. And then probably 14, 15 years ago, I had one of those moments one day where the president of the company walked past me in the hallway and said, "Have you seen the sales manager?" And I'm like, "No." And he goes, "Well, do you want to be the sales manager? You've done it before. You could do it." And I'm like, "I don't want that job." And he walked out into the warehouse, and I had one of those moments in your career where you're like, I gotta step through that door.
Promotion by being present.
Yeah. So I chased him out into the warehouse. I said, "I don't want to be the sales manager. I want to be the trainer. I want to start a training department." And I started a training department, and we did a fantastic program called Tech Builder, where we hired kids and adults and all different types of people and put them through an 8-week school and made a maintenance tech out of them. And 1 year we onboarded 99 people. So we taught that class. I had a technical trainer, had a build a plumber class. We just ran people through that, and we built an army, literally an army. And so Dewey Jenkins is a genius, an absolute beautiful human being. His whole family's like that, and just taught me leadership. Mm-hmm. And so being on the leadership team was absolutely awesome. I worked for Dewey Jenkins for 10 years, and I never heard him raise his voice. Not one time did he
It's a sign of a good leader.
Yeah, and so I just learned all that. You can manage by being good to people,
Right.
by treating people the way you want to be treated, and really like celebrating the wins. 2018, I left there. I wanted a bigger audience. I'm literally wanting a bigger audience, and I go to work for GAF, which is the largest shingle manufacturer in the world. And they flew me all over the country teaching roofers how to sell solar. And so that was super fun. I got out of that, got back in the air conditioning business, worked for some private equity groups, did a bunch of training. 3 years ago, I started my own business, the BGDG Group, and I'm the entire group at this point, but that's very short lived.
I was told about a 9-page contract that gave you.
Oh yeah,
number
well
two.
I actually did have I did hire my first hire this year, and so my daughter Lucy is going to be my social media director, and I love her, and she's fantastic at it. She's 13, so she knows
tell the story about the contract.
Way more than I do about like social media. Oh yeah, so she says I agreed to hire her, and she says, "Okay, Dad, hold on just a minute. I'll go upstairs to the office." And she comes back. She got a 3-page contract. She's got 3 pages of and we had to sign it. I had to date it. My wife had to witness it. We had 4 paragraphs I had to initial. One paragraph was that she was underage and I can only work her for so many hours a day. And I told my buddy, I was like, man, I don't know if if she really needed a 3-page contract, like I'm her dad, I can't fire her,
Right.
And he said, well, Jerry, she is your daughter. That doesn't surprise me that she made a 3-page contract for you. And I said, yeah, but I'm only paying her $50 a week.
Yeah, she's still got some Jerry Rollins training to do. She left a little money on the table.
She left some money on the table.
She did, for
She
sure.
might have been selling out of her own pocket. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Maybe she didn't have $50.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is. So BGD, for those that don't know, that's Be Good, Do Good.
Yeah, be good, do good.
Which is what you say a lot when you're recording different content and things. So what's the spirit behind Be Good, Do Good?
Well, in this industry, for the most part, if you're in the home services industry and you're good at your job, if you be good at your job, you can do good in the community. If be good at what you do, so you can do good for your kids. Be good at what you do, so you do good for your church, your community, your neighborhood, your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, your uncle, whoever it is in your life that's important to you.
Yeah.
If you're good at this job, you can make some more money. And if you can make some more money, you can do good for people.
Yeah, and see, it's that simple philosophy, I think, that drew me to you and vice versa, because you grew up in just south of Charlotte, right? A market that I would consider more similar to ours than a lot of areas of the country. And when you see a lot of corporate trainers that are coming from bigger cities, right, like very densely populated areas, I don't know that Be Good, Do Good is quite as important, because things aren't quite as, word doesn't travel as fast. Let's put it that way, right? Like in our area, you've obviously spent a lot of time here in Northeast Ohio. It's not about slick tactics and quick lines to get deals done, right? Like you'll see owners, operators go on their personal social media pages in these cities and hype up like, I just got this customer, they were only going to buy this, and I got them for 4 times more than what they were going to pay. And I'm like, oh my, if I ever did that, I would be ruined, right? Like it would get shared and people comment and tag it. And by the way, like I would just feel bad. I would never want to do that to begin with, right? So, and I think you agree, like Charlotte's probably more similar than.
Oh, for sure.
But when you see areas, LA, big cities in Florida, Texas, right?
Phoenix.
Like Phoenix, it's a little easier to get away with that because people aren't necessarily running into each other at the grocery store on a regular basis saying like, did you get hosed by that guy? So did I. I'll never use them again, right? So things just tend to get lost in the shuffle. But here it's very Midwest. So it's like word of mouth. And, Chad talked on his podcast, episode 1, about how his original goal of starting a successful HVAC company was to take care of the little old lady who would give him a hug at the grocery store. That's what he wanted more than anything.
I love that.
He wanted to be shopping on a Sunday and have somebody come over and give him a hug and say, thank you so much. You gave me heat when nobody else could, or you cooled me off when nobody else could. And so that was his driving force, not to sell big tickets. And we talked in that episode about now the private equity boom, right? Mm-hmm. And how it's become so much about big tickets and all the add-ons, and which some of that will still come organically if you do a really good job, but the focus shouldn't be that. And people who are getting into the industry just to become millionaires versus people who got into it 25 years ago, like Chad, because he just wanted to take care of people. He wanted to use skills that he knew. He was good with sheet metal. He was good at understanding refrigeration cycles, heating, cooling, sequence of operations. He wanted to use that to take care of people. And in turn, the money came. But
yeah, I think that's when you're building an organization instead of building a company.
Oh,
He's
100%.
building an organization that's going to be around a long time, supply people with jobs for a long time, help the community for a long time. I went out to dinner last night in Canton, to a place that I was at 13 months ago for dinner. And when I sat down at the bar to have dinner, the bartender said, "You were in here last year, weren't you?" So it's a small community. Like, they remember you. And if you treat them.
It was the accent.
It could have been. I never even thought about that. It could have been. Maybe I said, "Hey, how are y'all?"
Yeah, we don't get a lot of those accents around here. Yeah, I think you're right. And back to what you said a minute ago about Morris Jenkins and how you guys were building your labor force, right? You guys were developing your own tech program. You originally said like hiring these kids, right?
Right.
I know it wasn't just kids you were hiring, but the reality is like kids are great people to hire because they have no bad habits, right? They don't have any prior knowledge of the industry, so you can really train them from scratch. During this HVAC/trades boom, we've had the same thing, and you've obviously spent time training in our lab.
For sure.
I saw you posted on your social media the banner coming in with Ohio
so
Skilled
nice.
Trades.
It's state of the art training
it's
facility in our industry. There's no question about it. And I mean, it's tough to teach a old dog new tricks, but it's easy to mold a young mind that wants to do good and has a long runway in front of them. And the trades are so wonderful for young people to get into because there's so many different things you could do. You can be a technical guy. You can be a salesperson. You can go into training. You can go into management. You can go into leadership. You can go into warehouse. You can go into fleet. There's tons of things you can do in the industry. And I think that shift has changed in the United States. A few years ago, it wasn't so cool to be an air conditioning guy or a plumber.
Yep.
Now it's pretty cool when you see these plumbers and air conditioning guys making great six-figure incomes and supporting their family and doing good in the community.
Well, and I mean, especially in the last, we'll call it 2 years. I think I got really into ChatGPT and AI probably 2-3 years ago. I was what I would consider an early adopter. But you see some jobs now that were always glorified in the past, right? That if you chose when you were in 9th grade to choose this career path, people were like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to be so successful and you'll be viewed as successful and everybody will think you're awesome for doing that." When the kid in 9th grade who's saying, "I'm going to go become a welder, a pipe fitter, fabricator," like, "Oh, do you struggle in school? Do you not get good grades?" You're like, "No."
Right.
And a lot of those kids are like, "No, I get great grades. This is what I'm passionate about. I want to build things with my hands and I want to help." And now what's happened, you hit the nail on the head. It's shifted where as AI takes over this AI revolution, a lot of these jobs that were viewed as so glorious, 15, 20 years ago are becoming outsourced. We're already seeing a huge shift right now. If you look at the labor market, how a lot of these jobs aren't being hired, right? They're figuring out ways that they can leverage AI to have it, one person can now do the job of 10.
And they never take a day off. They never call in sick.
Doesn't have to be given
don't have
health
to pay
insurance.
benefits. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it's not quite as good as people, but when you consider the cost of the people, it's sometimes worth the investment in the AI because the cost savings is that much better. So, and the one thing we know is like, yeah, robots can weld, but they can't weld everything, right? And an AI bot is never going to be able to go into a home and install a furnace, install an air conditioner, diagnose it. Can you leverage AI to diagnose better, faster, so you can run more service calls? Yes, and that's what the best companies are going to do, right? They're going to leverage AI to grow their company faster. But what we've seen is, again, like the shift, which I'm loving. A lot of people don't realize, while I was, white collar the majority of my life, my family was all blue collar, right? My uncle was a auto diesel mechanic for Caterpillar in the field. My dad was a pipe fitter welder, worked his way up through Marathon Petroleum. So I was raised in a blue collar family that worked their tails off. So seeing the way that some people, even though they always did pretty well for themselves, sometimes view them, it's kind of almost like a moment of like, haha, like,
yeah.
like, how about these
Sorry to hear you had to go do that.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are similar in the fact that, back in the day, I think some people fell into the trades. They FAIL'd into the trades. They failed out of school. They failed out of college. They failed out, and then they got into the trades. I didn't fail out, and I didn't fall into the trades. I chose the trades.
Yeah.
Like, I literally looked at things that I wanted to get into, and I was thinking maybe I'm going to sell bottled water. Back in the day, I was like, I'm going to sell bottled water. That's going to be the new thing. And I don't know if people are going to buy for water in a bottle. I don't know if I want to do that or not, And I paid $12 for a bottle of water yesterday in a hotel room. And, I read an article when I was trying to choose what I wanted to do in my life. And it said something like, for the next 25 years, a baby boomer is going to retire every 7 seconds. And they're not going to move and downsize their home. They're going to do something called nest. They're actually going to fix up the home that's paid for and that they've lived in for the last 30 years. And these baby boomers are going to retire, and they're going to have money, and they're going to fix up their home. And if you get into the home services industry, you can boom with the baby boomers. And I'm like, ooh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's been fun, man. It's been super
worked
fun
out pretty well.
Yeah, it worked out great, And so
these baby boomers who paid like, $12 and traded a cow for their house in the 70s and 60s.
They literally paid like $40,000 for the house, and it's worth $700,000 now, $1 million. And they have all this land, and they made all the money, So
my grandmother-in-law tells a story about how her husband, he came back from World War, I assume it would have been World War II. Yeah, World War II. And bought their first house. It was in Dover, by the way. This house is now probably worth $250,000, $300,000. They bought it for $5,000.
I was going to say $6,000, but $5,000.
$5,000, and he bought it. So I'm assuming this would have been like early 50s, maybe late 40s even. And he bought it on the GI Bill, so there was like no interest. And the funny thing is, you ask like those people that are that age, they're like, why didn't you buy more houses for $5,000?
No.
They're like, because $5,000 was a lot of money back in 1949 or whatever it was. It'd be the equivalent of like, I'm sure in 70 years, we'll look back like, I would have bought as many houses as I could for $500,000, right?
Wow.
These houses are probably going to be $3-4 million.
Yeah, they're going to say the same thing.
But $500,000 still seems like a lot of money today to go start just randomly buying up houses, right?
Yeah, I remember in high school one time having a conversation with my dad, and my dad was talking about the mortgage and how to have a mortgage and how to have a house payment and all this. And I'm like, well, Dad, why don't you just pay I think their house payment was $250. $250 a month. I said, well, Dad, why don't you just pay your house off? Like, it's like you have the money. He goes, yeah, but I'm making more money having my money in the bank. I'll just pay the little mortgage. It's not a big deal.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. People who were lucky to financed in 2015, 16, these 1.9 to 3 point. Yeah. They'd kill to go back now and get those rates.
Absolutely.
I think it's like over 6 for just a traditional 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So insane. So I know you and I could just sit here and organically talk about absolutely nothing for hours, and it would be awesome. But I do want to, for the benefit of our listeners, ask you some questions that you have some insights to that I know people appreciate. So again, you travel the country. You've had the opportunity now for several years to interact with a lot of different operators. And I'm sure some operators you quickly can identify are prone to be more successful than others just by their culture, the things that they do and they act. Can you spend some time talking about those organizations and the common themes you see within those organizations that you think contribute to making them so successful?
Sure. I've been lucky. I've trained in 33 states now. And I think last year I did 41 on-site trainings.
Wow.
Yeah, I travel.
Almost one a week.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing. And one of my clients is in Texas, Mink Plumbing. They have 6 plumbers. These are not all really big companies. And and then I train you guys and much bigger, 4 or 5 locations. And then I've been to places where they had 100 technicians and 25 salespeople. So I've trained all sizes, and that's not what makes people successful. It's not the size, and it's not always the market.
That's right. And some people forget that, Jerry, because some companies choose to be small.
Yeah,
that's what they want.
And it's culture, and I think some of the common things I see is they care about their people. They hire good people. They have very little turnover. I have a client in North Carolina, and I told him his turnover's too low. Like, you probably have some people on the payroll that you should probably get rid of, and you like them, and they've been here a long time, and you have a 2% turnover.
That's incredible.
That's really incredible. But I think the best operators, they care about their people. They hire good people with character. They don't have to worry about honesty and things like that, and then they focus on training. They focus on training, and I'm going to say that because I'm a trainer, but they focus on training, and it's technical training, it's soft skill training, it's customer service training, it's all the way from their call center to their dispatch people to the technician to the comfort advisor, all the way to the installers and the people in the office, and it's all a group of people that that have bought into some core values. You know, at Morris Jenkins, their core values were honesty, integrity, fairness, and respect. And every decision that was made in that organization fell back to those four. Is it honesty? Is it fairness? Is it respect? You know, is it integrity? And everything came back to those four core values. And so I think the best contractors I see in the country, they focus on their core values and they make decisions based on their core values, and everybody in the organization knows what those core values are, and then they hire people that have those same core values. And their organizations attract people with those same core values. You know, they say talent attracts talent. Well, core values attract core values of the same.
Yeah.
We get along because we have the same core values, you know. And when you hire somebody, we're not all good at interviewing. We're just not all good at interviewing. Some of us are not good at it at all, but we're not all. And even the best people that interview, and I've interviewed 4,000 plus people in my life. There's sometimes I've missed. I really liked somebody, hired them. It turned out that they didn't have the same core values. And what you find out is when you have really strong core values in your organization, if you hire somebody that doesn't have those, it repels them.
Right.
You don't have to get rid of them. They just look around and go, oh, these people are really honest. I don't want to work with people that are really honest. I'm not comfortable having a lot of integrity every day.
Did you know I learned this?
I want to disrespect some people every once in a while. And like, we just don't do that.
I learned this a few years ago when I was still at Xerox. I was interviewing someone, and he interviewed really, really well. And then within 2 weeks, he came to me and said, like, I don't think this is a good fit. And I was like, man, it seemed like you had every right answer in the interview. Like, I was so lit, and then it just never translated in the first 2 weeks of your employment. And he's like, well, yeah, because I took a semester of job interviewing in college. I'm like,
oh, nice.
Shut the hell up. That is not a thing. He's like, yeah, well, sure was. I'm like, they're teaching how to job interview. Like,
that's nice.
What a terrible idea that is.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to teach you for 6 months how to trick the employer.
I can't say much for that. I've done a class on job interviewing. I've taught some high school classes on job interviewing.
I feel like high school classes would make more sense just as far as like teaching kids the basics of like, hey, don't dress like a slob, show up, make eye contact, shake their hand.
Right.
Like, but when you're spending like, when they ask this question, if you really want to get hired, you should answer it this way. Like where's the authenticity? Where's the like, let's see if this is actually a good fit, right?
My weakness is I like to work a lot.
Oh my gosh.
I'm an overachiever.
I was on a 2-hour call yesterday, with CELA corporate call with the HR team, and they were talking about interviewing. And that was one of the things they said, like, what's a good question to ask that will reveal the truth? And they mentioned that specific example. What's one of your weaknesses? Oh, I just love to work overtime and I just can't turn it off, right? Like,
I think about work all the time.
Yeah.
I try to be an overachiever. Yeah. So
I love my job so much it hurts.
Yeah. They say that out of 10 questions, you'll get 2 lies in an interview as an answer. You ask an interviewee 10 questions, they'll lie to you twice.
Do you think that's intentional, or do you just think it's their...
I think they're trying to get the job, and they're not really telling a lie to like fool you. They're trying to tell a lie to make themselves sound a little better.
I agree with that.
And you can spot that a lot of times.
Yeah.
But man, I've interviewed some people that I was just like 2 minutes into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be around this person. And then I've interviewed some people. I was like, how soon can you start? I've talked to you for 2 minutes and we're going to be best friends, you know? And I love that, you know? And when you get a group of people that think alike and have the same core values, then you're all plowing the mountain down the same side,
right?
You know, and you can get a lot of things done if you're working together, and everybody doesn't really care who gets the credit.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's kind of like The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, you know, by Patrick Lencioni. You know, that's a fantastic book, and the first that, you know, it's like a pyramid. The bottom of that pyramid is trust. And so the first thing you got to do is you got to trust the people you work with, that they're not trying to get your job and you're not trying to get their job. And when you give them feedback, you're not criticizing them to try to get them fired. You're criticizing them or giving them feedback so that you can get better as a team.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful.
That is super powerful. You want to hear a funny interviewing story?
Okay.
You'll like this one. So it was probably 2 years ago, and I used to be involved with every pretty much hiring process, even down to, hiring CSRs, installers, but anymore, obviously, I've kind of stepped away. We've empowered our leaders to be able to make those hiring decisions. But back then, we had this one. We had interviewed her prior. the person who had interviewed her really liked her. She was a lecturer. She was like 20 years old, super high energy. And we were interviewing her for a CSR position. So I was like, sounds great. Like, I'd love to meet her, make the final call. And that great. Come in, meet her, super bubbly. She's got a great personality. I started asking some questions. I was like, so I see you're working at Chick-fil-A now, which attracted me to her because I love Chick-fil-A. I love the whole concept. That's true at Kathy of, my pleasure taking care of the customer. If there's ever an inconvenience, they're not allowed to say the word no, right? Like, I love the whole service thing that they do there. So I'm like, she's already got a leg up. She's gone through some of the best training in the world, right? So super bubbly. I started asking her questions. I'm like, so tell me about Chick-fil-A. What do you do there on a day-to-day basis? She's talking about this and that. I was like, great. How's your attendance been? Just like super generic questions, right? She's like, attendance isn't always great. I'm like, oh, okay. I've never had somebody tell me that, even if it's true in an interview, So I kind of was like startled for a second. I'm like, what do you mean when you say your attendance isn't great? She's like, well, like, it's just me and my mom that live there in our house by ourselves. And we have 3 dogs. And some days when I get up, I feel bad. Like, my mom's already at work and the dogs are there by themselves and they're just looking at me. So I don't know. Sometimes I'll just call off so that the dogs don't have to be home by themselves. I'm like, and in my head, I'm thinking like, is she a really great person? A person who's even better than me?
She checked the honesty box. She did check that box.
And like, she's got a heart of empathy here because she feels worse for the dogs than she does her employer, right?
Dog lover.
Yeah. And I'm like, I was like, well, you don't get paid time off at Chick-fil-A, right? She's like, no. I'm like, so what happens when you call off? She's like, well, I just get a smaller paycheck, but that's fine. I just make it work. I'm like, are your coworkers okay with that when you call off? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, I guess I've never really asked them. I'm like, well, how many people work a shift at one time at Chick-fil-A? She's like, probably like 30. I'm like, oh, okay. So that makes more sense. So if one person calls off, you're only losing like 2-3% of your labor force for that shift, right? She's like, if you say so. I'm like, yeah. So here it's a really important job because we might only have like 3 or 4 CSRs working a shift. So if you call off, that's 25-30% of our labor force for the day. And this is before like we could use overflow for AI and stuff like that, right? She's like, oh yeah, well that would be a problem. And again, like I'm like partially like I love this girl, and part of me is like she seems like a terrible employee, but I love her authenticity and her honesty. And I'm like, yeah, it would be a problem. And she's like, yeah. So what do we do about that? I'm like, well, I think the key would be to not call off. She's like, yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. And I'm like, oh my, like every time she answered a question, I was just so conflicted between like part of me just loves like how endearing she is. And she was, like I said, super bubbly, young girl that I thought would have done a great job on the phone. But ultimately I walked away from like, I don't think this is a good fit. I mean, she basically just told me like, she's going to continue to call off and she's going to, but she saw no problem with it whatsoever. But it was definitely one of my more interesting interview.
I've had some funny ones. I'll match that one with you. I was interviewing a guy one time for a technician position, and maybe going into tech builder class or something like that. And I was just trying to get to know the guy a little bit. And I said, "Hey man, how many friends do you have? Like close personal friends? Like, how many friends do you have?" And he said, "No, I don't have any friends." I'm like, you have friends. Everybody has friends, Sure, you got some friends, right? And he goes, "No, I don't really like people. I don't like to be around people. I don't like people. I don't have any friends." And I'm just like, we're in the residential business. Like every single day we're going to send you to people's homes. And you're telling me in the interview you don't like people. I don't think this interview is going to go any further. I think we're done. Have a good day. I hope you can find something that you don't have to talk to somebody.
He should have taken the college interviewing class.
He should have taken the class. He clearly laid out that day.
But then you might have hired him and found out the hard way that he doesn't like people. So maybe it's best that you didn't.
If we talked a little bit more about like the best contractors, I'll tell you, they meet with their people on a regular basis. There's not I trained a company in upstate New York one time, and it was a sales group, and I walked in. I was like, "Hey, how you guys doing?" And is today's Wednesday. Is Wednesday normally your sales meeting? Like, how often do you have a meeting? And they were like, "Yeah, we don't have meetings. We don't ever come together as a team. We don't have meetings. We used to have meetings, but they were so bad, we just quit doing them." I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna have to work on that."
So not trying to come up with a better way to have meetings.
Just stop doing them. Yeah, that'll solve the problem, you know. And
hey, we're not good at calculating our taxes, so we just stopped paying them.
Yeah, I worked for a company in Chicago, and I said, you know, how often do you have your techs come in? How often do you have a meeting? And they were like, oh, we don't really have meetings. We have beatings. When they come in, we tell them all the stuff they're doing wrong, and we're going to correct all their mistakes. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to work on that.
Yeah. We talked about that on the podcast with Brigham, how that's you know, more common in the trades probably than a lot of industries, where that old school my way or the highway mentality, where beatings are still pretty prevalent in a lot of organizations, because that was kind of the way it was always done, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's shocking to people when I come in and train their people, and they're like, our people really love the meeting today. They came by and said that we should have a meeting like this every week. They're all fired up.
Yeah,
you know, and it's not rah motivational type thing. It's holding a group accountable.
Yeah,
and everybody knows they're accountable, and there's a process, and we're going to follow that process. And so when we go to send somebody to someone's home because they've got a problem, the message is super, super clear. Like the message from the marketing says, we're these type of people, and you're going to love our people. And then they call us, and the CSR is really a nice person and has empathy and has some really good questions about when we can come out and help them. And then we send a technician out there, and he runs the play. He goes through the process, and he goes, hey, I can fix it, but have you ever thought about getting rid of it? And the customer's like, yeah, I don't want to repair it anymore. I want to get a new one. Or I just bought this house, and we always like to put a new furnace in when we buy a new house and get all new ductwork because my wife has allergies. And he goes, well, let me get, you know, one of our comfort advisors, one of our project managers out here. The project manager goes out there, and he does exactly the same thing. And then the installer goes out there and does exactly the same thing. And then the customer leaves a review that says, hey, I don't know where they get all these people at Simpson Salute, but they're all the same.
Yeah.
These people are all the same.
Yeah.
And they're nowhere near the same.
They're not. They're not. It's funny. It's kind of been like a curse probably for the last 10, 12 years. You probably do the same thing. I know guys like Brigham do, and Chad does the same thing when we walk into places, but you look at businesses sometimes, and by no means are we perfect, right? We've got a lot of flaws. You've been around our business long enough. You've seen some of them. I'm sure we're constantly trying to address them and fix them. But I'll walk into some businesses, some are even successful to some degree, and I start seeing all the ways they're broken and all the immediate ways that you can fix them and what it would do for that business if you could. And I'll give you a recent example. My wife traded in her vehicle. It was getting up there in miles, and she's like, I don't want one this big anymore. I want to downsize a little bit. And I absolutely can't mention the dealership at all, so because it's a friend.
Local.
It's a friend, and yeah, I'm not even gonna say it's local because it's somewhere. But
We'll cut that part.
I can't. No, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. Yeah, you're good. I can't help it but diagnosing the issues within this business, right? So from my interaction with the sales guy, not the sales profile I would have hired at all. Old school, more kind of pushy, cheesy, cliche, didn't feel authentic. Great guy, by the way. Great dude. Love the guy, but I could tell he was trying really, really hard. And at some point you just want to be like, man, you don't have to try this hard. Just connect. Like instead of giving me the quick one-liners, like just ask me questions, right? And just talk authentically. Like as a lifetime sales guy, like kind of breaks your heart a little bit. You're like, man, like you read some bad books or something, or watched some bad podcasts. Like this is an art. It's not a course. Like it's just about engagement, authentic engagement, right? And then we went into the one office to take care of the deal, right? Where they look at the numbers and like it doesn't represent what that dealership should represent, the whole office, like the way it's decorated, the look of it, the feel of it, you know, and the way that they're presenting the numbers. I'm like, it's just so not great, right? And so we left the dealership, and I told my wife, I said, oh my gosh, like tomorrow I would fix so many things with that process. Now they got the deal done. I was probably going to buy it from no matter what happened, right? But I'm like, I would do this and this and this and this, and I would do this, and I would change this, and I would go here and this. And my wife's like, you do this with everything all day, every day. I was like, I do. I can't turn it off.
Nah.
You got to work with one of our inside sales guys yesterday. What was the text he sent you this morning?
He said that was the most refreshing training he'd ever been to. It was the light of breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
He absolutely loved it. 2 kick-ass days is what he called it.
I think that's verbatim what he sent you, right? And he's such a good fit, but a story about him that I know he won't care if I share. So he owns a local raceway, local speedway, does go-kart racing, and super good individual. And same thing. When my son got into high-speed go-karts, we went down there, and I'm like, finally got to the point after a few interactions with him where he was comfortable enough. I said, like, hey, can I give you some suggestions, man? Like, I want to see your business do really, really well. Have you ever thought about doing this and this and this and this and this? And you could do it this way, and we could go talk to this person and get this done and do this and this. And he's like, holy shit. He's like,
I should come to.
He's like, you don't even know go-kart. Like, how do you know this? I was like, I don't know, man. It's like a curse. Like, it just starts kind of coming to me. Like, but I'm sure you do the same thing in businesses. When you go to these businesses, right? Like, I don't do what you do and getting to travel all over. I travel selectively, especially because I have 3 teenage boys that are at the age right now where I need to be home a lot. But when I do, like, I can't help it. Like, I just start like picking apart, like, oh, are you doing this? We should think about this. You should do. And I always give the disclaimer, like, I don't have it all figured out, but I can tell you right now, like, if you're paying commissions that aren't based on the profitability of each job, you're doing it wrong. If your AR processes aren't tied directly to your sales guys' commissions, then they should be. Right. Your sales guys have to own the AR process, or it's going to get out of control. And like, just these things that seem commonsensical, you know,
Right.
that they're like, well, no, we pay them flat commission. I'm like, no, regardless of the profitability. Well, yeah. They can't control how long it takes the installers to do it. I was like, they sure can.
Sure can.
You know, it's called a thorough walkthrough, a proper load calculation, an accurate assessment, understanding as a business what your labor cost is so that they can factor that into the job. Like, they absolutely can impact the profitability of the job, and setting your installers up for success so that the job cost comes in at a competitive rate, making sure everything's in the bin in the morning so they don't have to make 3 runs to the supply shop. Like, no, they absolutely can, right? So again, like, not trying to ever seem like a know-it-all, but like, these are things that like are very important to making a profit, which every business has to be able to make a profit or you can't stay in business, right? That's why we all come to work. And if you want to be able to give people raises and do things like President's Club trips, like what we do for our coworkers, and donates to more and more nonprofits every year and sponsor more baseball teams, like, where does all that money come from? We haven't found the money tree yet. So it has to come from profit. But when you're on site with these business owners, who I assume most of them are very motivated to do good things for their business, or you wouldn't be there, right? You're step one of admitting there's some problem or something I'm trying to do better. But what do you do when you walk in the doors and you see all these things that you're like, it's got to be like what I experience when I go to the car dealership. And I'm like, there's so much left on the table here.
Yeah, it is. It's it's a people business, so it doesn't really matter if I'm talking to a garage door company, a roofing business, a restoration business, an electrical client in Maine, or
for me, it could be going to a restaurant.
It could be. There's a Chinese restaurant near my house for a long time, and every time I went in there, I would go home and tell my wife, if they just turned the tables around this way, they could seat more people, and if they put their menu like this, and if they cleaned up a little bit, and they like. Man, they could triple their business if I just show them how to move the counter.
Right.
And
you're like wanting to talk to a $3 an hour server about all the ways their business.
I know, and it just doesn't work. When I go into, contractors' offices, I'm trying to change the behavior of their team a little bit. And so sometimes it's not the business that I'm looking at as much as the people. But there's been several contractors, they always get a feedback after the training, and you'd be shocked, really, almost like how many people hire me to come train their teams, their sales team, their CSRs, their technicians, their plumbers, their garage door people, whoever it is, and they'll give me 20 people, for a couple of days in a room, and they'll never show, and all the 20 people show up, but no leadership shows up.
I remember you telling me that.
Supervisors don't. They just give me their people for a couple of days, and I train them, and then I'll give them some feedback, and the feedback is, you guys have to sit through this training too. Somebody that's going to hold them responsible, somebody's going to hold them accountable for. This is how we're going to do things. Has to know how we trained it.
The first time you came on site, you told me that it was actually day 2 of your 2-day training, and you told the class. Like, this is one of the few classes I've ever done where the owner was here.
The owner sits in.
For 2 days straight. And when you said that, I was almost like,
it's amazing,
they're writing
really.
the check, but they're not even showing up to see what you're teaching them.
Oh, man.
Like, how can I reinforce what you're teaching them if I don't even know?
It gives me a lot of confidence that they believe in me and they trust me with their people. And almost everybody that hires me knows somebody that I've worked with. Like, I never even created a website. My website just went online, bgdggroup.com, by the way. Most of the people
we're going to charge you for that
the first 2.5 years or so. No, my friend Sean LaPlante in Maine said, Jerry, you're almost unfindable. You almost have to know somebody that you've worked with to get you to come to their shop. And I was like, okay. And so they have a high level of belief and trust in me when I go there, but you gotta have people that keep the training going. But I've been in several shops where the feedback after 2 or 3 days of working with the group, I trained a company in upstate New York, and the feedback was, you should clean your office. That was my number one feedback for that organization. This place is a shithole. I'm like, you can.
No, we're not even editing that out.
You cannot expect to attract the best people in the industry when your place looks like it hasn't been cleaned in 2 years.
Amen.
And it's not organized, and you're not going to get the best talent. Go to a Mercedes dealership, BMW dealership, and look at the garage, how that thing looks, and then look at your warehouse and how that thing looks.
Exactly.
Who do you think's getting the better technician?
You've been to our HVAC offices, right?
Oh, it's
You've
super.
I mean, down to the tech we put on them, the way we paint the walls, everything is extremely strategic. The way we position our org chart, the quote above the org chart from Steve Jobs about team leadership, like every single thing is extremely strategic. And one of the first things we hear when someone comes in to interview that works within the industry is, holy cow, this does not look like any HVAC company I've ever been in before. And I'm like,
I know.
Mission accomplished.
I said that last year in March. I was like, can I take a picture of this? Can I take a picture of that? Because I want to show people this is what you can do. And when you do that, you're building an organization. You're not building a company to sell off and walk away and do all those kind of good things. And when you're building an organization, that thing's going to be around a long time. And Mr. Jenkins at Morris Jenkins said that, he never wanted to make the most money or be the biggest revenue company. He just wanted the biggest company. Yeah. He just wanted to chase the biggest company. He wanted to have the most employees. His thing was, hey, Jerry, if we hire all the technicians, we'll get all the business. And so we tried to hire all the technicians in town. We got the very best ones from every company, and then the money chases you. You don't chase the money. And
right.
That's the key to the whole thing. And a lot of companies, they'll say, hey, we want to grow. And I'm like, well, you need to hire some people. And they were like, well, we can't support them. I'm like, well, you're never going to be able to support them. You can't do all this marketing and get a bunch of calls and then tell people, well, it's going to be 3 days before we get there. It's going to be a week before we give you a quote. Yeah. You got to hire the people, and then the business comes after that.
I want to take one more second, Jerry, and spend a second on what that philosophy of, like, when you build the office, you're trying to attract the best talent, right? And again, you get to see all different walks of life when you're out in the field. So I think about sports a lot in comparisons for sports from a leadership perspective. And in my opinion, business sports parallel each other so much, as far as the way that the organization functions. Is it top-down leadership? Is it kind of middle of the road? And I know, especially with like youth sports, there's got to be some level of hierarchy because the coach is the more experienced individual and kids can be punks and they're still learning life skills, right? But there's this mentality of like, well, you're almost lucky to be here. Like you're lucky to be part of this team. Or so if you think about someone who doesn't invest in their office, their technology, their benefits programs, there's typically this mentality of like, it's more about me organizationally than it is about you and attracting top tier talent. Whereas if you look at a lot of really successful coaches, right, sports leaders, if you look at a lot of really successful businesses, they don't approach the business that way.
Not at all.
It's more about like, hey, we want you to feel part of this. My job as the coach isn't to dominate you. It's not to lord over you and manipulate you. It's to motivate you. It's to listen to you. It's to figure out how to get us to operate as one symbiotic unit that can go out and conquer together, because when you win, I win as the coach. And that's what I want. I don't need to dominate you, right? And plain and simple, like if you're not someone who can play within my program, then I'll put you on the bench, because it's about the team. It's not about one player. It's not about, and rather than like, you'll hear coaches who will like punish the team when one player screws up, right? Yeah. I've always thought like, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
Like in business, can you imagine like you're talking to 10 high performers, but there's one slacker in the room. So you tell them all like, hey, you're all getting 3 days unpaid suspension because that guy sucks. Like, what's that culturally doing to your team? What's that? But I think about that approach again, my interaction with the car dealership, when the office doesn't look appropriate, And if you talk to some of those business owners, again, the mentality is more like, well, it is what it is. Like if somebody wants to work here, they shouldn't care what my office looks like. They shouldn't care what our programs look like. They shouldn't care what financing vendor we offer, whatever. And to me, it's just such a short-sighted, narrow approach, because those are oftentimes, you'll attest to this, the same people are saying like, man, what are you guys doing to overcome the labor shortage?
It's exactly what that you get out of that.
We have a culture problem.
If you don't care, they don't care. If you don't keep the office clean, they're not going to keep their van clean.
Bingo.
If you don't do like really nice things for them, they're not going to do really nice things for the customer. If you as a leader feel like a free inspection or a free second opinion or a maintenance call is not a lot of value, then the technician doesn't feel like there's a lot of value in that, and then the customer feels like there's no value in that, and then it's a vicious cycle. It's I don't want to run those calls. There's no value in those calls. That's because we did that as a leadership team.
100%.
Yeah, it's
the UConn women's basketball coach. What's his name?
He's wonderful.
Is it what? I'm terrible with sports names,
but I love him.
I've seen so many videos where like players, like I think it was Paige Beckers, like walked into his office after she had got drafted, and she walks over and gives him like a huge hug. And the way that he talked to her, and it was like a ESPN, special before the national championship game last year, I think it was. And she was talking, Paige Beckers was talking about like the relationship he had with the players. How he yelled during games, instruction usually, but how he could coach them through inspiration, and he was always there to give them life guidance. And she, as a player, always felt like she was on the same level with him, meaning like she never felt like lorded over. She never felt dominated. Like he never had to assert himself as like, in my opinion, one of the worst things you can ever say in business. It's a sign of an extremely weak leader is I'm the boss. Yeah. I'm the boss, or this is my business, or, that mentality is so cancerous and dangerous within the organization. You notice we call them coworkers here for a reason. And you'll see coaches who will do that, right? Like, I'm the boss. You'll do it my way. Or they believe in like this senior hierarchy. Like, hey, because they've been here longer than you, it's their job to teach. Like,
no.
I'm like, oh my, like the senior leadership thing. I'm like, that is the biggest bunch of, and pardon my French on this one, bullshit you could ever teach. Like, because you're a senior, you're now qualified to tell a sophomore who works 3 times harder than you the way that things should be. Like,
and he's going to run circles around you. They're literally going to run circles around you.
And then like, I'm not going to get real specific, but like some coaches are encouraging those seniors, like, it's on you to get on these kids and teach them the right way to do things. Like, that dude's lifting 6 days a week and your senior's lifting 1. Yeah. And you want the guy lifting 1 to yell at the guy lifting 6? Look at the results. That dude's 350 pounds and overweight. That dude's lean and muscled out. Like, but you want him yelling at him because he's been here 2 years longer? Like, bro, you're a broken coach. You don't understand the importance of building the team here. Like, you don't. So if I think about that in terms of business and the way it translates, like if I hire a stud, I'm not going to rely on the guy that's been here for 5 years to teach my stud his bad habits. That's the last thing I want to do. Like, I'm not going to go to the dude who's been sucking for 5 years and be like, hey, you need to teach this new guy how we do it around here. Like, I'm going to be like, hey, I just hired a shark. You better get your shit together, because that boy's going to be swimming. He's going to be, you've been here for 5 years. You're not carrying the load. And that boy is going to smell blood in the water and put you out of a job if you don't step up.
Chuck, man. Hey, I'll give you a little compliment. I would tell you what I see in the best contractors. When I go into a place that I've never been to before to train their teams, the very best organizations, it's really hard for me to figure out who the boss is.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I came here last year, and I was like, I can't really pick out who the boss is. And then, like, I went to Blue Fox Heating and Air in
Chicago.
They're in like Indiana, West Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah.
And I was there for 2 days before I could figure out who the 2 owners were. I could not figure out who the owners were. And
those are awesome dudes, by the way.
And I told your group yesterday, I told Chris from Jackson Comfort and your new sales guy yesterday, I'm like, I was talking to Drex, and he was like, I got to go get on this call. And I said, he walked away, and I'm like, dude, I met him last year, and I just loved him right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I came up here last year, and I couldn't figure out who the boss was. I couldn't figure out who was in charge. And that's the best, because when you go to, like, some contractors, you know who the boss is, and he's bossing people around. And he's the person that's complaining about the labor shortage.
Oh, yeah.
And the younger the employee is, the more they don't want to be bossed around.
One of the It's like a pet peeve of mine. I want to know your opinion on this. When you walk into an office and there's either a self-portrait or a family portrait of the owner in the lobby. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts aren't good on that. That's not a good sign. But my thoughts are also not good about when I go into a contractor's office and the guy's got his RV parked in the parking lot and his boat.
His 40-foot boat.
Yeah. And, did you see my boat out there? And I'm like, yeah, you should move that thing. You're making enough money to hire me. You're making enough money to get a storage facility.
Yeah.
All you're telling your employees is I'm parking out here for free and look at my boat. And if you work real hard, maybe I can get another boat.
I know. I love that saying.
Yeah. And I want them to have the boat.
Right.
Like I tell my class on a weekly basis, I want you, if you're a comfort advisor, if you're a technician, a plumber, a garage door company, or a garage door tech or a restoration tech, I want you to have all the toys that your customers have.
Yeah.
When you go to somebody's house and they have a boat and they have a nice four-wheeler and they have a nice car and their wife has a nice vehicle and they have a nice house, I want that for the technician. I want that for people in the trades.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's a defining characteristic of successful companies as well. Are they, allowing the entire organization to win together?
Oh, yeah.
Or are there a few top-heavy people that are winning and everyone else? Because if that is the case, you're going to see increased turnover. You're going to see dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
You're going to see it's hard to attract talent because as some talent leaves you, they're going to make it well known in your industry in that area that, hey, you can't win at that company. There's only a few people that are allowed to win, and they're at the top, right?
Yeah, well, you can pull into a contractor's office. I can do it for sure and look around the parking lot and tell you if they're profitable or not.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. If all their cars are just beat up and, half the people hate it working there. And that's different than you drive in. Everybody's in a new car and you walk in and it's a really nice office and you get greeted right away. And you hear a lot of laughter. Mm-hmm. That's a good one too. When you hear a lot of laughter in a business, people are having fun in their business and teamwork and all that kind of good stuff. And you guys celebrate a lot. I love that.
You sure do.
You celebrate what you want more of. You don't tell them what they're doing wrong. You tell them what they're doing right, and you celebrate that over and over and over and over.
And that goes back, though, Jerry, to what you said a minute ago. Like you have those core values that define who you are organizationally, so it makes it easy to celebrate because very rarely do any of our coworkers who we empower to make decisions make bad decisions. Sometimes they make decisions that aren't 100% the way we would have done them, and they still work out. But they reference back to the core values. And the one question we always ask them, and we've already mentioned it on every podcast so far, is, will it benefit the customer? Will it benefit the coworkers? And if the answer is yes, then it's probably not going to be a wrong answer.
Just
it might not be the best. Do it. Yeah. You're empowered. Make the decision.
To do it.
If we have to coach you through it to maybe think differently for the next time, that's cool, but you won't get filleted for it. We're going to say like, hey, Jerry, I love that you handled that. I love you took care of the customer. I love you made a decision that didn't hurt any coworkers. Great job. Way to handle that, right? Because speed to lead, making a quick decision is oftentimes better than pissing a customer off for 3 days because we're running it up the flagpole, right?
Right.
And every day the customers just get more unsettled and going to work and telling more and more people about what a crappy company you are. I'd rather just handle it now because that opportunity cost is far greater than the $1,000 credit I owe a customer, right? And the bad Google review or whatever it is. So, but you have to have something to reference back to your earlier point, because if you don't, then people are just kind of running around like,
should I or should I not?
Well, they say I'm empowered, but what rationale am I supposed to be deploying here whenever I'm making decisions, right?
Yeah.
So
I was in Boston 2 weeks ago, and I rode around with a comfort advisor all day, and he's came from another company and came to Boston Sela, and he's had some high success at his old company and just didn't like the things that were going on there. It didn't match his core values. And he goes over walk to Boston Sela, and I'm in the car with him, and I said, listen, man, just make the call. You're empowered to make the call. If you have to call somebody to see if you can do something, you're just losing sales over that. Just make the call, and then we'll back you up. And if you do something wrong, we'll say, hey, you messed up this time. Don't do that anymore. Right. But just do it till they tell you to stop doing it. Just go ahead and do it. And if you make enough sales, it covers up a lot of those little problems that you created.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way. Like I got into sales, and, I'd come into the sales meeting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the install manager would come get me out of the sales meeting and come in there and yell at me because I was selling things that they couldn't put in. You know, and then I come in 2 days later, and the install manager would come get me again and take me in his office and tell me what all I was doing wrong. And after about 6 months of that, I was selling a bunch. But after about 6 months of that, I'd just come in on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and go to his office. Yeah. He wouldn't have to come get me anymore. And he told me one day, like, at least you're selling a lot. Some of those guys out there, they don't sell anything, and they're still making mistakes. You're selling a lot. You're making a lot of mistakes, and I don't know if you know how to read a tape measure, but at least you're selling a lot. And we became really good friends. It was awesome, you know. And
that is.
Yeah, so it was fun.
I know we have to leave some time for your tough day story, but I made a note here. I want to talk about this one for a minute, and then we're going to ask that big question. Hopefully
okay.
Keep this thing under an hour and a half. So when I think about you and the services you provide, you said something earlier that I was like, man, I think it's like a larger, it kind of indicates where we are like culturally right now. And I don't want to get too deep on this, but I want to get a little bit deep. So dive in.
Okay.
We'll go like 7 feet into the deep end.
Okay.
We're not going all the way 10. Okay. But I think we live in a society where we're very much always trying to treat the symptoms and not necessarily the product. And I'll take that and translate it to HVAC specifically and what you do. You said sometimes you get hired by business owners who don't even come to the training. I think a lot of contractors are constantly looking for silver bullets. They go on different Facebook groups or so, and they say like, hey, what's the answer, guys? I'm not getting leads. Tell me the next big lead source. Like, rather than building out their marketing team and their program and really dissecting like why their current marketing's failing, they just look for the next thing.
Sign me up thing.
Yeah, sign me up for another service. Oh, Jerry Rollins can fix my sales team. Great, I'll pay him. He'll come in, he'll train him. I'll sit over in my office and work on the numbers, and I'll crunch the QuickBooks numbers. And they're just constantly treating symptoms versus treating underlying problems. And my example for this is, it was like a year ago, probably maybe 2 years ago. My wife, we had a kid that was sick at home, and she said, hey, he really wants a milkshake. Can you run up to the store, get his milkshake, then pick up his prescription from Drug Mart? I said, sure. And this drives me nuts. So, and I'm like, being fit and taking care of your health isn't easy, right? It's much easier to be unhealthy. So I go over to, it's called Freddy's. It's right across the street from Drug Mart. They sell milkshakes. It's like a little custard place.
Freddy's.
Yeah, Freddy's. I think it's a chain. So when I get behind this car, and this guy's taking forever in front of me, and I could tell this guy's like 400 pounds. And I'm not fat shaming here, but the guy's clearly making some bad health choices here today, right? So I watch him get in his car. He orders whatever. And I follow the guy as I see him eating behind me right over to Drug Mart. He pulls into Drug Mart right in front of me. And I walk in to pick up my son's prescription. I end up behind him in the line. And he's picking up his blood pressure medications. And as I literally see like the mayonnaise and stuff still dripping off this dude's chin from devouring a triple cheeseburger in the 30-second drive from Freddy's to Drug Mart. And I'm like, man, that is like so symbolic of just like societally like where we are. Like,
it is.
I still want the cheeseburger. I still want to do the thing I know is terrible for me, but I'll just take a pill. And the pill will offset the bad thing that I'm doing, and everything will be fine. And at the end of the day, like, I'll feel okay. I won't feel as good as I could. I might not live longer, but at least I can get through the day. At least I can get through the day feeling like I'm doing something. And then somebody will probably ask that guy at some point, like, are you taking care of yourself? Oh yeah, taking my medicine, man. I just, I have this issue. It's hereditary. I have high cholesterol. It's
Big
not
bone.
the 1,400 pound calorie sandwich you just shove down your gullet in 10 seconds, bro. Like, this is the problem. And like, it's so frustrating. You could tell I get real sensitive on this. Same thing in business, right? Same thing with fitness, anything. Like I do this. I've done this my whole life, like where I'll work out, get fit, be feeling good about myself, and then I'll get out of it, right? Because we all do that. And you tend to do that in business too. Like, oh, we're so good at this. And then it works so well, you stop doing it.
You plateau. You get comfortable.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And then you revisit it. You're like, why would we stop doing that?
Yeah. We
got to get back to it, right? And same thing as fitness. So, but do you see that a lot, Jerry? That's a long 4-minute question ask there.
Well,
do you see a lot where people are just looking for silver bullets? They're really not
looking
invested.
for silver bullets, but they're not willing to put the work in. And what I see a lot with contractors is if they have a problem, they just hire somebody to fix that problem.
Yeah,
they try to fix a problem by throwing a warm body at it, and that person doesn't really know how to do that job, and that person really is not the fit. That's the wrong seat on the bus for that person. But instead of trying to solve the problem, they just throw a person at it. And then they turn around and they have way too much office staff, or they have way too many helpers, or they have 3 guys on every crew because the guys weren't finishing the jobs on time. So let's just throw another body at it. Like you were saying earlier, comfort advisors, they affect the profit margins, right?
I think so.
And sometimes they'll say, and I hear this, they'll say, installers or install managers will tell me, when you're teaching our salespeople today, teach them that if we just add another person to the install team, that doesn't always make it faster. 3 guys can't always do it faster than 2 guys.
Sometimes it might slow you down, actually.
Because there's only so many people that can get in the basement or in the crawl space, and and so
or there's this expectation of like, well, if there's 6 of us, somebody else will always carry the lead, the load.
And what we're doing is we're throwing a body at a problem instead of fixing the problem. Like, how can we set these crews up earlier? How can we prepackage all the material they're going to need? How can we get them a checklist so they can do it? How can they? How can we follow up with them? How can we do a quality control behind them? And it's all getting them to buy into it's their own little business. It's the installer's own little business. He should do work that he's proud of. And it's the comfort advisor. They're driving around in your vehicle, but it's their own little business. And if their name was on the side of that vehicle, they would treat that business differently.
You're right.
And if a plumber or electrician or a roofer or a HVAC tech or a garage door repair person, or if they realized their name's on the side of that vehicle, they would stay a little longer on that call. They would not say, well, it's 4:30 and I can come back tomorrow and finish. They'd finish that day because they got to pay the bills if they own the company. And so I think getting people to buy into the fact that that we're all looking out for the customer. We're all trying to solve that customer's problem. And the faster we can solve it, the better they tell their friends. Man, it costs a lot. Maybe they're a little more expensive than other people, but man, they solved my problem and I didn't have to take another day off of work.
So you're 100% right. Everything you're saying, I agree with wholeheartedly. So that's like addressing it from the HVAC perspective, which to me, that's still the shallow end of the swimming pool.
Okay.
Going back to that 7-foot depth level, we're not going to get too deep because I got to get to the toughest day question. What's the bigger problem right now in the world when it comes to that approach? What do you think when it comes to like a lack of accountability, constant looking for silver bullets? Is it that people just have gotten lazy? It's so easy to get answers via ChatGPT that I don't have to work out every day to be fit. I can just eat what I want and take a pill to make it better. Like, are we tricked by society? Like, what is it?
We're tricked by society. We're also tricked into thinking it's all about me, 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 me. People are so concerned about themselves, they don't even care about you anymore. Customer service has gone down because people just don't care about the customer service anymore because they're so concerned about themselves. When you walk into a business and the person that's supposed to greet you is on their phone, they care more about themselves than that business, and even though the business is paying them. And so I think we're living in a society where because of the news and social media and all the things you can get attached to, we think that's going on everywhere in the world. And so we're going to give up on doing the right things and being good to people and doing good in the community because it looks like everywhere in the world they're rioting, and they're not.
Right.
They're not at all. That's the news making you believe this is going this way and this is going that way, and that's not necessarily true in your own little world.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, back in the day, if you watch CNN, that was news network.
Right.
And now it's not. It's a total.
It's 95% politics.
Yeah, it's all politics. And so you can't believe any of that, And so I always laugh at, when you hear somebody say, well, I heard this the other day. And I'm like, oh, okay. It must have been on the news. It must be true.
Oh, I know. And I see it on social media. Yeah. And sometimes you just want to reach out to these people like, hey, man, go outside and touch some grass. Go touch some grass. Like,
take your shoes off and get grounded a little bit. Go outside for a long walk. Spend some time alone, and you'll find out this is not such a bad place. Like
it's definitely not. And even you're so spun on with this topic. It can seem so bad, and I know for some people it's like, well, why don't you care more? And it's like, it's not that I don't care more about national level politics, but like with everything that's going on in Minnesota right now, it's like I can't change that. I don't have time to go there and protest, but what I'm doing here is pretty darn important, and it keeps me pretty busy. So I'm just going to keep plowing really hard on this, right? Like I'm going to be good, do good right here in my own corner of the world. And I'm going to hope that stuff works out and that maybe some of the stuff we're doing here, if enough people could do it, will start to translate at a larger level. But I'm not going to wake up in the day and be like, oh, it's so hopeless and there's nothing I could do. And I'm going to go protest and riot. And like, it's just, I don't know. For me, it's more protesting isn't enough. like just going and standing.
Right.
Like standing isn't always action. Like I would rather just every day wake up and grind really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. At my church, we have this benediction at the end, and they say, this is just an entire congregation says the huddle. And he goes, now we just got to go play the game.
Oh,
So that's so good because, on Sundays you huddle.
Dude, that's really good, actually.
You huddle, on Sundays, and then you go play the game all week.
Yeah.
And
what a great concept for a church. I've never heard that.
oh, yeah.
So Sundays we huddle up as a team. This church is our team, our congregation.
This is the huddle, so we can go out there and play the game.
And now we got 6 days of playing the game.
Yeah.
Dude, that's good stuff right there. That's a nugget.
Stuff. That's Derwin Gray.
I'm writing that down. Think about that in business.
Oh, it's absolutely true, man. I worked in, I pull that into my training a lot of times. Like we've been together for 2 days and we're training on a process and we're training on asking good questions and building good rapport and listening and asking second and third level questions and building great options for people and let them choose which they want to do. And we're going to huddle on that. We're going to huddle on it. And then we're going to go out and play that game all day long. But on Tuesday mornings, we're going to have a huddle. And that's what professional teams do. They all huddle. They all do spring training. They all do, they all do preseason games. They all do batting practice every day.
Right.
Tiger Woods used to say, I just need to get some reps in. I need to get some reps in. That's the huddle. You get the reps in here so you can go out there and play the game.
That's one more thing I'm going to steal right there.
We can't practice with the customers. We're confusing them. We're playing on your money and we're playing on our time, and we have to practice it in the training lab. We have to practice in the weekly meeting. We have to hold people in the huddle. It's the huddle. Let's go play the game.
Definitely stealing that one. That's
We're playing the game right now.
My good friend Jerry Rollins told me about the huddle versus the game, so I'm happy to have that in my repertoire now. So thank you for that. We got to at some point start bringing this thing in. So I got to ask the question. I know you got a great story.
I don't know if it's a great story, but I got a story.
The toughest day for Jerry Rollins. Let's go.
It was one tough day. And so I want to clarify that. I've had plenty of tough days.
Of course.
If you interview several thousand people and make a career out of building teams, you also make a career out of firing people. And so I've had some tough days where I had to let people go, and I didn't really feel that. And so this is one of my tough days. And so I was managing. My career was going really well. I was managing a big sales team, and I was doing all the interviewing and all the training, and we were building this just monster of a sales team, and things were going really well. And I was on my way to work one morning, and I got a phone call. And it was a tragedy. My sales coordinator had lost her life the night before. She was in a car accident. And it was brutal. Like that phone call just stopped me, And it was unexpected. And I just talked to her at 7:30 the night before. And now I'm hearing she's passed away. And I know that I have to go tell my team. And it was a tough day, man. It's a super tough day.
How long ago was that, Jerry?
I'm going to say 2002, 2003, 20 years ago, easy. And she was fantastic. She was like one of those people that if she was involved in something, she handled it. Like you could walk away from the business and know it was okay if she was there that day. And she was like super high energy, 32 years old, and everybody loved her. And
what was her name?
Angie.
And
she was just like one of those people who had a great aura. Like you like to be around her, and it was just really tough. And I knew I was going to have to explain it all day. And so I go to work, and at the time we had about 30 salespeople. And, on any given day, we had, a few people out, a few people at a doctor's appointment, a few people on vacation. So any given day, we probably had 25 salespeople running sales calls. And we guaranteed them when we interviewed them, we'd give them 3 sales calls a day. That was like our guarantee. That was our promise. If you come to work here, we'll put you in 3 houses a day. And so, so I had about 30 salespeople. And because of that, I had 50 installers. So I had, 25 teams of installers, and I had a dozen people in the call center, and I was going to have to explain the fact that we'd lost one of our team members the night before, and it was just a super, super tough day, and I didn't know how to do it, and the worst part, Steve, was I knew I was going to have to run a sales call that afternoon. Like, I knew after having to explain to my whole team that we lost a team member, that I was going to have to go out and sell the job.
And your heart just wasn't in it.
Oh, and my heart wasn't in it at all. And it wasn't optional. I was going to have to do it. And
customers still needed served. And
they
still
still had a problem, And so I just remember, that 2:00 that afternoon, I was sitting in my truck and I was just kind of staring at the steering wheel like, this is not right. This doesn't feel right. Sorry.
All good, man. This is the authenticity of Jerry Rollins right here and what it's all about.
I said, this customer doesn't have a problem. They didn't lose somebody. We lost somebody, and we're gonna be professional. And I think that's the day I found out, like, leadership is about stability. If I spiraled out of control, my team would spiral out of control.
Right.
And if I didn't handle it right, how are they going to handle it right? And if I didn't go run a sales call, how could I expect them to go run a sales call? And these are people that are high performers.
Right.
That this is the girl who held the team together.
Yeah, the glue.
Like, you got to think that some of our people were like, oh, we're going to fall apart now. Who's going to give me all my calls, and who am I going to have to talk to every day? And is it going to be somebody that, I don't know, and things were going really well for us. And so I decided, hey, I'm just going to man up, and I'm going to run this call. And I did. And I just tried to be professional. And I probably listened a little better to that customer. I had a little more empathy with that customer. And truthfully, Steve, I don't even know if I sold that job. I can't remember if I sold that job, but I can remember vividly that I showed up. Like, I just showed up. And that day was the day. That was a tough day. That's a tough day.
That's a tough day to listen to. So I can only imagine experiencing it, but I know what kind of person you are, Jerry, and that every experience is a learning opportunity for you. So I know going forward, whether it was what you carry with you from your last interaction with Angie, whether it was the commitment that you made that, like, I got to be the rudder on this ship for my team, like, it probably changed your trajectory. And
no question about
influence, be good, do good. Here we are now 23 years later after Angie passed. And I'm here to tell, I think Angie would be extremely proud of you, Jerry, and I'm sure a lot of what you've done over the last 23 years has been in Angie's honor.
Yeah. So. Well, I think that day I learned that leadership's really about emotional discipline. You have to be disciplined emotionally. If you get upset about things, your team gets upset about things. When things are spiraling out of control, you have to be stable. And so that's what I learned from that. And that's what I've taken with me. Business is about people. KPIs are important, revenue's important.
Life's about people.
But people, it's all about people. And so I think that day, I'd probably been a little tougher on people up till then than I should have been. I think growing up and early in my career, I had some really tough leaders that were really tough on me, and I responded to that. And I thought everybody responded to that, and they don't respond to that. Yeah. And so after that day, I was a little nicer to people in case it was the last time I ever talked to them. And I've held on to that.
Yeah, there's
Sorry.
No, you're good. No apologies required here, man. I absolutely love, like I said, the
Told you it
vulnerability.
was going to be a sad story.
You warned me, and I didn't let you tell me the story ahead of time because I wanted it to be real for the first time. And I love that story. And you're right. I mean, especially when you think about the way that moments like that shape us going forward and change us. And the emotional stability is important. Within the business, I'm extremely stable. Like, I can keep balance. I could lose $1 million today, and I'll be fine. You won't see. I had a situation just this past week where in an athletic situation, I lost my head. And I haven't done that in a few years. And if you talk to anybody that knows me really well, Jerry, you haven't got to play basketball with me or been on a sports platform. Like,
you like to win.
I'm a freaking idiot.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
literally.
heard.
And there is no real line. Like, and it's something I've fought since I was a teen. I mean, below teenager, like 6 years old. I was the dude that absolutely would flip the Monopoly board and walk away if I couldn't win. And so, and by the way, like, I've spent the majority of my life not playing games that I can't win. If I know I can't win, there's a reason why I don't bowl.
Okay.
I suck at it.
Okay. Me too.
If I can't, like, oh, we could just socially bowl. I'm like, just not my personality to play games I can't win, right? But there's a line there. And it's so funny because the difference in me at 22, 28, 35, and now 41 is when I had that outburst, like the amount of regret that I immediately felt, and owning the outburst and owning the fact that I had kind of broken my own rule and then had to go back and start repairing the relationships because of the harm I had done in that moment, right? And it wasn't that bad, but it was bad enough. And I think for me, the worst part was the disappointment in myself, because I felt like I was like a recovering addict.
It's
like, I don't have a drinking problem. I have a freaking competitive asshole problem.
It's an emotional discipline, and you have to learn that as a leader. It's super duper important that you can control your emotions as a leader. You can't fly off the bat and then tell people, don't yell at me, and you just yelled at them.
Yeah, 100%. And then here I am, like, again, like back to what I said a minute ago, like I could lose $1 million today in a business and be like, sucks, but I got to learn from it. But you put me in this competitive environment in a sports situation, and I become a completely different person. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Ties me. It's not tied to financial dollars, right? It's tied to something deeper. But it was like a recovering alcoholic, like falling off the wagon is the way I felt.
Yeah.
And so beat myself up about it for probably 2 days, and then just make this commitment that, like, you know what, man, like, I'm not perfect. I tell God all the time I'm not perfect, right? Like, so I just got to own that. Like, it's not an excuse. Doesn't let me off the hook for not being perfect.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder that, hey, I'm still a work in progress, and I just got to continue to focus on it. I made it probably 2 or 3 years without an outburst this time. Like,
good.
Maybe next time it's 5 years. Maybe it's 7 years. So,
you know,
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But it's an ongoing process of personal improvement and trying to do as good as we can for ourselves, right?
Yeah, I like to call that a soul tattoo.
Yeah.
You get tattooed,
A scar on the heart,
and it's a scar on the soul. And so you know, I think that tough day for me gave me a little soul tattoo. And deep down, I said, I'm going to treat people better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you ever listen to me training, you'll never hear me say the word no. Like, I ask 1,000 questions in 2 days to the audience, and they'll give me the wrong answer, and I'll be like, oh yeah, and what else? Oh yeah, okay, what else? And yeah, okay, what else? Because I just don't want one person to go home and tell their spouse, yeah, I had an answer, and he told me no, I was stupid.
I spoke up, and it was wrong.
Because they'll never come to my training again and speak up again if they do that. Like, that tattooed me in my soul, and you know, and I'm still super sad about that thing, but it built some character. You know, some days in business, you work on your skills, and your business tests your skills, and then some days your business tests your character. And that day tested my character, you know. And there's a story, and that says, you know, the word character came out of the word chisel. Character came out of the word like engraving or carving, you know, or chiseling. And so when you take a piece of marble and you chisel away everything, you leave a statue. You know, Michelangelo, they said, how'd you build that statue of David? He said, well, I saw David in the marble, and I just cut away all the things that wasn't him, that weren't part of him. And so I think that when you have a tough day, character is not what you gain in life. Character is what gets chiseled off of you. Yeah. The bad parts get chiseled off of you, and what's left is character. So if you meet somebody with real high character, they've probably been chiseled down a little bit on some tough days.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think I'm a big faith guy. I believe everything happens for a reason. I think God brought you here today, Jerry. I think I needed to hear you more than anybody out there probably right now. So I appreciate the reminders. Any moment I spend with you, I'm always better after it. So thanks for being a good friend and a colleague, and I look forward to us spending many more years together. And I know any event I'm at, if you're on stage, man, you know I'm going to be sitting right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
cheering you on. So
appreciate that.
But pleasure to have you on the show. I'm looking forward to being down your neck of the woods in a couple weeks. I'll be down in the Charlotte area.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Be good so you can do good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You'll have to come over and show me the good places to eat while I'm there.
I'll do it.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks, Jerry Rollins. I hope everybody got to know Jerry a little bit better. Just an incredible individual. If you want to find out more about his Be Good, Do Good, if you want to find out more about the trainings that Jerry offers, where can they go to find out more, Jerry?
bgdggroup.com.
bgdggroup.com. So hit it up and you can get some Jerry Rollins in your life, and I can promise you'll be a better person for it. I hope, even though these episodes are going a little longer than originally planned, that you guys are finding them productive and great content. I appreciate all the text messages and phone calls as a result of the One Tough Day podcast. That'll keep us going. And I appreciate all the folks that have reached out about being guests just in the past few weeks. We already have, probably a nice 40, 50% guest list that I think is going to be pretty incredible, and quite a few episodes recorded. So keep tuning in, keep following us on social so you get the updates as we drop new episodes and line up new guests. And I hope that you guys benefit from this as much as I do. Until next time, thank you again for joining the One Tough Day podcast.